The massive Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline will effectively double the amount of gas Germany imports from Russia, and US President Donald Trump isn't happy about it.
We will be competing when you talk about the pipeline. I'm not sure necessarily that it's in the best interests of Germany or not, but that was a decision that they made. We'll be competing. As you know, the United States is now, or soon will be, but I think it actually is right now the largest in the oil and gas world. So we're going to be selling LNG, and we'll have to be competing with the pipeline.
While touring Europe last week, the US president seemed more angry about the 1,200-kilometre project, accusing Germany of being too dependent on Russian gas.
I think it's a horrible thing that you have a pipeline coming from Russia, and I believe that Germany is going to be getting 50, 60, or even I've heard numbers of 70% of their energy coming in from Russia. And how can you be working for peace and working from strength when somebody has that kind of power over your country?
Germany currently buys around 40% of the total gas it consumes from Russia, and Nord Stream 2 would make it much easier for Moscow to shut off existing pipelines leading through Eastern Europe, as it has done during various disagreements in the past. The EU has also refused to back the pipeline, saying it doesn't contribute to its goals of diversifying supplies and weaning Europe off Russian gas. For his part, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he was willing to cooperate on energy more broadly.
That we, as a major oil and gas power, and the United States as a major oil and gas power as well, we could work together on regulation of international markets, because neither of us is actually interested in the plummeting of the prices, and the consumers will suffer as well.
Trump has been agitating OPEC and its allies to ramp up production, with national average petrol prices in the US up almost 16% since the start of the year. While Saudi Arabia and Russia are keen, convincing other oil producers may be more difficult. Auskar Surbakti, TRT World.
And TRT World Sarah Morice is in Helsinki and joins us for more. Hello there, Sarah. Good to see you. So there was certainly a lot at stake for these two men at that summit, but give us an idea of the mood of that meeting.
Well, Asa, you'd be hard-pressed after watching today to realise that these two were meant to be traditional rivals, if not, dare I say it, traditional enemies. But this has been an extraordinary meeting right from the start. Here's Donald Trump reaching out to a country, Russia, that the rest of the world, or many other countries in the world, are trying to isolate, be it through imposing sanctions or be it through cutting off diplomatic ties over a range of issues, from the annexing of Crimea to the involvement in the Syrian war to, of course, the alleged attack from the Russians on UK soil using a nerve agent. So when Donald Trump turns around and basically undermines perhaps the EU, NATO, even the UN by going ahead and inviting Vladimir Putin to meet with him here in Helsinki, he's changing the order, I guess, of diplomacy as we know it. Now, we know Russia would have been quick to jump on board this meeting. The sanctions that are imposed on them, while they may not be crippling, of course they're hurting, and Russia would be very keen to find a new trading partner, someone perhaps they can encourage to perhaps lift those sanctions, perhaps do more trade deals with. And I think that's what Vladimir Putin perhaps saw in Donald Trump, and that's why we saw such a cordial meeting between the two here. Yes, Vladimir Putin arrived half an hour late. He's known for making world leaders wait, but once he got here, it was friendly between the two. Donald Trump winked at him. There was a friendly handshake. Donald Trump normally does that very aggressive handshake. He didn't do it with Vladimir Putin. And these two are now saying, well, this is the start of a new relationship between the two countries, and what that will mean diplomatically and I guess also when it comes to trade, well, that's a little way down the track that we'll find that out, but certainly baby steps. This was the first step. Yeah,
and Donald Trump even got a football out of it. But let's talk about Nord Stream 2. Trump and Putin were asked about that. Donald Trump just last week, as we heard in Oscar's package there, had described Nord Stream 2 as a horrible thing from Germany's point of view. Today, he's saying he's not entirely sure whether it is in the best interest of Germany or not. How are these comments and these seemingly contradictory comments likely to be received in Berlin?
Well, we know one thing about Donald Trump in that he is not predictable, very unpredictable. While he was at NATO last week, he was doing his best to get those NATO members to pay up their membership fees, so to speak, invest 2% of their GDP in their defence budgets. One of the ways, I guess you could say, if the right words, bully Germany into doing it, was to accuse them of being captive to Russia by taking this gas from Russia. Now, we know that they take about 40% of their entire gas supply from Russia. Nord Stream 2 would allow that to double. Now, Donald Trump may have been saying that he was upset that here he was paying all this money to protect Germany from a perceived enemy, which would be Russia, and here's Germany turning around and doing business with Russia. But you've got to remember as well, the US sells oil and gas, particular gas, into the EU, and perhaps they didn't want the competition. So now Donald Trump's arrived here and he's softened his rhetoric. He's now calling Vladimir Putin and Russia a competitor. So this is probably where this has all changed. Yeah, very quickly, Sarah, who do you think from where you're standing came out on top? I think you'd have to say Vladimir Putin won this one. We've seen Donald Trump just overturn decades of US-Russia relations and policy. He's turned around Donald Trump and essentially said publicly that he backs Vladimir Putin's word over his own intelligence officials' words when it comes to the meddling in the US election. Okay, so there is no doubt about it. I think Vladimir Putin's the big winner today. Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Sarah Morice in Helsinki, thank you.